pay the man or not to pay the man? That is the question as we start off on this edition of the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Tuesday. Welcome. Hope you all having a great day out there. Of course, sitting alongside Derek Bodner and Kyle Neubeck, I'm Devon Givens. Brianna is back with us. She's in the house. So you guys don't have to worry. She's here. She's all good. She's back in the house with us. And you, as usual, here in the chat with us as we begin things. And yes, as you saw it right away, the question simply extension. Yes or no, because Joel Embiid, the former MVP and, of course, one of the top players in the NBA, is, in fact, as a franchise player, eligible for an extension because of his credentials of what he's done over the course of his career here to set himself up to have himself in a position to get another extension from the Philadelphia 76ers. And with this one in particular, it's coming off of course, his age, getting up there where he's 30 now, talking about the money that's going to be there, salary cap implications that may be there for him and his team going forward overall. Is it worth it? And age-wise, when he does sign this extension, if and when he does sign an extension with the Philadelphia 76ers, what does that mean long-term for him and this organization? So we'll talk about that, what it means, how it translates for the team overall, what it might look like in the future as well. But we go to, of course, the numbers man here on this desk here that we have. Man segment. We know who it is. We're going right to Derek Bodner to start things off. Derek, how much money would an extension be for Joel Embiid?
A lot.
A lot. Okay. So we can borrow a dollar.
What would we talking about? He's currently got 3 years left on his contract at 51.4, 55.2, and then 59. Actually, I don't remember because I overwrote that with the new extension. Right around $59 million for that third year. That last one is a player option. This would be ripping up that player option and signing him to a new 3-year contract starting at $59.7 million for the 2026-27 season, $64.5 million for the 2027-28 season, then $69.3 million for the 2028-2029 season. All told, a 3-year extension for $193.5 million.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot. Well, I said, you asked me how much, I said a lot.
How would you personally spend $193.5 million?
You'd never see me again.
That's always my first answer to people, is I would drop off the face of the earth so quickly that people would be stunned by it.
You wouldn't know I had it at all. Not at all. Not at all.
That's probably not true. I would probably take a drone, go out, fly all kinds of crazy locations, and you might see a picture or two on Instagram, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So as we talk about it and you lay those numbers out, it makes sense for them to sign him to this extension for who he is and what he's done for this franchise? Or do you look at it differently in building out this team of how you feel like they should go about their business in looking to do so?
No, any contention they have is with Joel Embiid. This is the cost of doing business to keep an MVP caliber player around. If Joel Embiid wants to sign an extension, I think you sign him to an extension. Obviously, there is an incredible amount of risk in there. You're talking about a player who will be 35 at the end of that extension. Not necessarily the end of a career in terms of NBA players nowadays. I mean, we're talking about which 35-year-old should they give the next 4-year contract to. We've spent the last month and a half talking about that topic. So 35 is certainly not past an expiration date. There are concerns because of his history of lower body injuries, obviously. I've pushed back a little bit. I think he can age pretty well offensively. How well can he move his feet defensively? How much versatility will he have defensively at that point? That, I think, is a bigger question mark. But I think he will be a productive player over the next couple of years. And if he is an MVP caliber player, and to keep him happy, you have to give him an extension. You pretty much give him that extension.
Yeah, so I'm going to say the same thing I've said in about 10 different discussions where Joel comes up. I understand the people who don't believe in him, right? The people who say, I just don't think he's going to stay healthy. I don't believe he'll ever be ready and there at the level they need him to be in the playoffs. But if that's the case, he has to go sooner than later. Before you get to the point where an extension like this, a future commitment, further team building happens, then you have to get out of there, because if you don't believe in him now, when there's more confidence at age 30, 31, 32, that he might be able to hold up, that he's still going to be in the prime of his career, well, then you certainly don't believe in him at 33, 34, 35. So however you feel about him now, I don't think fundamentally is going to change in between those years. So for me, it's a pretty easy yes. As Derek said, he is their contention window. As long as Joel is here, they have chances. And it's easy to always put everything on him or do the other side of it, right? Like there is a contingent of fans and or media who are like, well, nothing. It's never Joel's fault. The team's been built poorly. His injuries have let him down more than his performance and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't think that's all the way true. But I also don't think it's true the people who are like, well, he's a choker. He'll never get it done. He'll never stay healthy. Like, I don't believe that either. Some of that comes down to luck. Like, I can't sit here and tell you, yeah, I could guarantee Joel's health for next year, let alone 5 years down the road. But I do think the average floor of his play is going to be so high that you're always going to be in the hunt. Now, will you be in the inner circle of teams? That's less about him and more about these things we've been talking about this summer. Can you sign a Paul George, trade for Jimmy Butler, trade for Brandon Ingram, whoever it might be? Can you find the right combination of role players and not just find them this summer, but find guys that you can build continuity with over the long term, right? Like that's been one of the main missing ingredients for this team as we look at, you know, the Bostons of the world, as they've retooled and recycled a lot of guys, but the core has mostly remained in place. Can you keep at least a semi-permanent core around Joel, around Tyrese, so that when we get to next year, when you get to his age 31, 32, 33, 34 seasons, it's not just, hey, we're blank slating it again and we have to figure out, like, how do these guys play together? They can't be going into every season with that type of thing. I think that's been a bigger issue than Joel. So I get the concerns. I get the downside. The lower body injuries are scary, but I do think with his skill development, like he hasn't been reliant on athleticism for, I don't know, years now.
No,
like,
we just told him. We just had a show saying we want him to dunk less. Please do less athletic things on the court. Please, Joe.
If there was a point that he was pretty reliant on his athleticism, it was like year 1, year 2 in the league. Beyond that, I mean, we've seen him slow down. There's less springiness and all that, and he is still a 30-10 guy pretty easily. In the 6 games he played in the playoffs, he scored 33 points a game and look, there are the turnovers. There's the efficiency that goes down from the regular season. We can pick apart his game, but at the end of the day, he is one of the most productive players in basketball. He needs to be a little bit better in the playoffs. He needs a bit better of a team, some consistency around him. And I still, in my heart of hearts, believe that they can contend with him. And that's the only real question. If you believe you can contend with him as your number one, maybe a 1A, 1B type situation, if Maxey takes another leap, then you offer him the extension every single day until he signs it. And then you deal with the consequences if he says no.
I do think he can still lead a team as a contender, and he's the go-to guy there. And with that, so I say yes, I give him this extension because, as you guys just both laid it out, he's been so good at what he does. He's one of the top players in the NBA. Whether you can argue the top 5, he's probably top 4 because we can argue about the 5th of who that player is. But he's that good. And yes, he's had the injuries. They haven't gotten past the second round and all that stuff. But guess what, too, when we look at this, while we can get into what we all know what the ultimate goal is. But in order for you to get to that goal, you still have to be very good in the regular season to do the things that we're asking of him, to do the extra stuff in the postseason to get them to that NBA championship and play in that actual series. You have to do the things in the regular season, which he is elite at doing that. And with that, one of the things that we've talked about so much is he's finally found seemingly the perfect partner that we've talked about so much this season, where Tyrese Maxey has elevated his level of play. And if he's going to get better like he always does, that 1% better, somebody even said last week, Tyrese now needs to get 2% better because the pressure is on him to be increasingly better because of how good he was this season and what they're going to be continuing to ask of him to take some of that pressure off of Joel Embiid. But he is that good that good, where there's no need to even, in my opinion, I know we talk about it with Michael, we've talked about it with so many others, including our GM here, Vince, about moving on from him and getting some things back for Joel Embiid, because that's how good he is. That's what you're going to get back.
Mm-hmm.
Right now is not the time for that, in my opinion. And when you do have Tyrese Maxey, speaking about that potential third star that they're at, the acquisition of putting the other players around that Kyle is talking about to improve this roster, to improve the personnel overall, there's still a window that's open enough where we're talking 2 to 3 years with him being the main guy. And the main guy doesn't always mean he has to score 35, because going into the beginning of the season, even before I got here, the guys were talking about how, you know what? Bring it down to about 27, 28 and still be just as effective in the game because of your scoring ability. Instead, he looked even better while scoring the 35 that he was averaging, the 33, 35, whatever he was averaging. And now you have the Tyrese Maxey piece. You want to have that partnership together for as long as you possibly can, with Maxey getting better, bringing in that third piece and putting the right pieces around them to compete. And we just did the show yesterday on Nick Nurse and how important he is. I want to see Nick Nurse in year 2, hopefully again with another healthy Embiid, with Tyrese Maxey and whatever he's going to incorporate with that third star into whatever offense they're going to have, to be able to use them the right way to contend once again. When we were talking about this team before he went down for that 29-game stretch, we were looking at them saying, all right, it's Boston, it's Denver, and then it's Philadelphia with leading the pack of the others. That's how good they were. And it seems like that's still in there with him. So as a result, you give him that money, see what Tyrese Maxey does again in his development, and hope with their partnership, as we talk about them being the best together that we've seen during Embiid's career, the contending will still be there. Now it's just a matter of, again, are you going to get over the top?
Yeah. You brought up trading Embiid, and I don't want to make this a trade Embiid thing. And you brought up Vince. I feel like I feel like at some point we need to like tape the conversation arguments going, because Vince will never come on the show. Sure. Tape the arguments we have over there, because those are the real heated debates. Tape it Supreme Court justice style. But for the people who do want to trade Embiid, what do you think the odds are that Tyrese gets fed up with that? Like, there's so much like trade Embiid to build around Tyrese. First of all, I disagree with that fundamentally. But even if you do, you're running, I'm not saying Tyrese would ask out, but you're running the risk that he would ask out, because who wants to waste away a prime that Tyrese is just entering? Tyrese is here. I think he's not here. He's here because he's drafted. But I think Tyrese very much wants to compete with Embiid, wants to chase a championship with Embiid. I think they both realize how much better they make each other. It's not as cut and dry as, well, if you trade Embiid, you can get all these draft picks and build around Tyrese. No, Tyrese might not like that. Tyrese might not approve of that. You don't know. Right now, you know you have a contender. You know you have a chance to go out there and build something with them. We just talked about how they were finding real chemistry between each other, and they finally found a pairing. Run with it. That means over the next 5 years, like I said, if Embiid wants that next contract, I think you have to give it to him. He's that good. He's worth it. There are concerns. There are very few contracts that you hand out that there won't be concerns. But to keep an MVP caliber player happy, to keep him here long term, to give yourself a chance to build a contender, yeah, I think this is a slam dunk.
I mean, we know how much Tyrese Maxey wants to win. He showed us when he allowed Doc Rivers to lie about his role in moving to the bench for months. He allowed his head coach to go out there and say, actually, it was Tyrese's idea for me to do this thing that was unpopular, and I'm going to throw him under the bus so that I can escape public scrutiny for a move that I am the author of. I am the engineer of. And Tyrese kept his mouth shut and tried to go about his business because he cares about the team and his teammates and what's best for winning above all else. So even as he went through personal struggles and personal doubt, and probably looked at Doc Rivers and said, why the fuck would you say that? Why wouldn't you just tell the truth to the people you're talking to? He kept his head down and he kept working because he ultimately thinks like that's how he's programmed. And it's a credit to Tyrese that that's how he thinks. It's what we talk about all the time, the focus in how he tries to improve and figuring out, okay, these are my weak spots, and funneling his development toward specific skills, specific areas that help him not just become a better player, but become a more useful partner, more useful teammate for the guys that he's playing alongside. All of that, yes, is about him as an individual, but it's also about the collectivist approach, right? Like I'm not, it's not just Tyrese Maxey versus the Boston Celtics or the New York Knicks. It's the Philadelphia 76ers. And so whether that means I'm playing next to James Harden in the backcourt and I need to be the off-ball guy, whether I'm the dribble handoff partner for Joel Embiid, he's always shown winning comes first, second, third, and everything else later. So yeah, if you do the like, now look, if they were to trade Joel, they could get so much for him and having Tyrese as the baseline, you basically couldn't go into true rebuild mode. It's just a matter of like, does Tyrese want to go from, if you're healthy, it's automatic 50 wins and you're a second round team and you have at least a puncher's chance against contenders in the playoffs, to you might win low 40s and you might be scrapping and clawing for the exact seed they ended up with, even with Joel missing half the season. So yeah, I just think if you were to ask Tyrese, and I don't actually know, but I think a big part of wanting to commit to the organization is knowing Joel's here, more guys are coming, and we have a real shot to try to win in the next 4 or 5 years.
Is that 100%. Doc Rivers that you're talking about? Is that the one we're really starting to see now in these clips that are coming up from that TV show, the Clipped show, where he's calling out everybody?
I did see one clip from the practice.
That's what I mean. Is that the Doc Rivers that Tyrese Maxey was? Where he's like, all right, I'm just gonna.
It had to come from somewhere.
It came from somewhere.
Maybe it's probably dramatized, obviously.
Yeah,
I don't think they just pulled it straight out of thin air.
Yeah,
I would say
the Lawrence Fishburne, Doc Rivers.
Yeah. No, I haven't watched it.
It was only the clip that I saw. I didn't see the episode or anything. It was just a clip. And
I did have some people like tagging me like, "Hey, this has actually happened in practice?" It's like, I don't know. They let us watch shooting at the end of it. It's not like we get to sit there and watch it.
Yeah.
You guys seen any movies way back in the day where he was still Larry Fishburne instead of Lawrence?
Yeah.
King of New York.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite one. I don't know if I've seen any other ones from back then.
Yeah, Larry.
But
not anymore.
Larry Fishburne.
You say Lawrence.
To Lawrence.
You know who we're talking about. Yes.
Well, everybody, quick break from Joel Embiid talk to talk to you guys about another new friend of ours. And that's the good people at Mint Mobile. Look at me, guys. I'm up here. I'm Joe Dumars. I got 2 phones. I'm calling Devon on this one. I'm calling Derek on the other one. And that's because Mint Mobile has taken me away from, we're going through a test period to see how do they compare with these overpriced wireless providers. You realize when you hear deals in mobile products, there's always a catch. And when I heard for a limited time that Mint Mobile wireless plans are $15 a month, I sat here and I thought, what's the catch? After talking to them, after setting up my phone, it all made sense. There isn't one. Their secret sauce is that they sell wireless services online. They don't have retail stores or salespeople. So instead, they deliver premium phone plans directly to you. So say goodbye to overpriced wireless plans and get some jaw-dropping monthly bills and unexpected coverages. Mint Mobile's here to rescue you with premium wireless at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone. I had a spare phone to use. Or you can get a new phone, but you can bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts and ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's limited time deal of 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. And maybe they'll even let you talk to Ryan Reynolds too. Can't promise you that. So to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Sixers. That's mintmobile.com/Sixers. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Sixers. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
We also want to make sure we tell you about Rite Aid, specifically about Rite Aid's pharmacy services. With a My Pharmacy account at Rite Aid, you can refill your prescriptions, schedule a vaccine, get personalized care recommendations, sign up for prescription notifications. All you need to get started is a prescription at Rite Aid. Stop stressing about your prescriptions. Let Rite Aid refill them automatically. Enroll in automated courtesy refills. It's free, easy, and most prescriptions qualify. Talk with your Rite Aid pharmacist or sign up through your My Pharmacy account at riteaid.com. And if you need to make updates to your prescriptions, you can use the Rite Aid mobile app to manage them. With the Rite Aid mobile app, you can transfer or refill your prescriptions. You can set up medication reminders, enroll in prescription notifications, download from the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Transfer your prescriptions to Rite Aid today. Just go to riteaid.com/transfer. Rite Aid caring pharmacists are ready to answer your questions and help you stay healthy. Get your prescriptions along with anything at Rite Aid you may need, including over-the-counter medicines, household products, cosmetics, and more. Just ask your pharmacy team for details. Restrictions apply.
All right, so Jay asked the question when I mentioned top 5. You can argue the whole thing about where things are, and I wanted to ask you guys after the break. Jay just simply asked, is Joel Embiid top 5? As we talk about extending him. And
I thought you were going to ask. Someone's asked if King of New York or New Jack City was better.
I saw that.
That's a pretty important question.
Brian,
we'll get to
Brian
that
Knight.
later.
Yeah,
Thank you,
get to
Brian
that
Knight,
later.
for that question.
Yeah, I actually have it. I have my answer already. But
I do too.
Yeah, but is Joel Embiid top 5 is what Jay was asking as we talked about that. We mentioned it briefly last week when we were discussing it, but Kyle, as we laid out, is Joel Embiid top 5? We talked about, of course, Nikola Jokic, Giannis, Luka Doncic, and then we had Embiid in there. The question was Jason Tatum or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 5, or who was 5? And then you go from 6 on out and asking that question, where does Anthony Edwards fall in there, so on and so forth. I still have him in the top 5. I understand injury, but if you take the injury part out, just as looking at it for what it is, he's still top 5 to me for the question that Jay asks. What do you?
Yeah, so here's my position on any of those lists and rankings, what have you. To get in that top group, there has to be sustained elite level production. So that's why for me, as much as Anthony Edwards in the playoffs and this season made his big breakthrough and everyone's kind of expecting him to be, he's in that conversation now. He will start edging his way into MVP, first team All-NBA, all that kind of stuff on a routine basis people expect. But I'm not there yet because I want to see it over multiple years. Just a year prior, obviously he's very young and he's trying to figure things out. Mm-hmm. People were like, well, did the Wolves box themselves in and screw their franchise up for years to come? And are they going to, I said on this show that toward the very beginning, one of my big expectations for this season was that Karl Anthony Towns was going to get traded, like that. I thought they were going to have to split up the two bigs and figure out a new plan. And so I think there are guys that are in the conversation, but I think based on the body of work, I think based on being a routine MVP candidate year in and year out, we can certainly pick apart the playoff stuff. And if you want to say, I dock him because he hasn't been good enough in the playoffs, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for him, right? Like we can say he's been injured, he's been this, but he has not been at that level when he's needed to be in the playoffs. But I take the whole body of work and I say, yes, it's a pretty easy yes. But that also is why I'm of the position, you sign him to the extension if he will take it, because he is that good. Even if he's not, he's one of the floor is he's one of the 10 best players in the league. And you don't let guys like that walk out the door when letting him go would turn you from a team with at least a little bit of title equity to a team that will be lost in the wilderness and just hoping that you can turn a bunch of draft picks and role players into somebody who can be even 3/4 as valuable as Joel Embiid currently is.
Yeah, no, I think he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he was MVP
simple.
last year, and he was having the best season of his career before this. Look, I think to be in top 5, like Kyle mentioned, you need sustained excellence, but I think you also need to be either a dominant game-changing defender or a really elite setup man. And I think when you start looking at there are obviously going to be exceptions, like Kevin Durant during his prime. He was pretty close to being a dominant defender, certainly underrated on that end. But he was just such an electric scorer that he was obviously in the top 5.
His Golden State years made it very easy defensively, where he looked really good.
He was real good.
Yeah.
But Embiid does so much defensively that separates him in this conversation. Even if you didn't believe in the offense as much as some other players, that elevates him. And because of this, how sustained it's been, I think he's.
And I was going to ask, but Vince
says he's not top 10.
Do you include the playoffs when you incorporate the top 5 stuff? And you brought up the Anthony Edwards piece, you laid it out. just Embiid has failed, but he has done stuff. He has been there. He's been to the second round many, many years. Again, we've got to bring it up how far it goes. But do you include Derek the playoffs in this conversation?
It's part of it. Certainly, he has not been a top 5 playoff player.
No,
of course, of his career.
No.
I think everyone. So we're basing a lot off of regular season. But yeah, I would understand if you want to weight playoffs maybe more heavily than we are. I would get that. In terms of quality of player, though, I think he's still top 5.
Well, and so here's the problem once you get into, okay, not top 5. You could at least make a coherent argument. You boost somebody for, I don't think Tatum is there, but you'd say Tatum has been a consistent playoff guy. They go deep. Maybe it's about the team, but whatever.
Sure, right.
Shooting 32%
whatever.
from the field.
Once you get into, again, I'm just trying to humor the other side of the argument. Once you get into, he's not top 10. I'll just go through the guys who are in this type of conversation. Kawhi Leonard didn't get out of the first round, hasn't been healthy, and hasn't been healthy for years. So he hasn't been a consistent producer. The body of work historically is not relevant to the body of work in the last 3 years or so. Steph Curry, historically, certainly higher on the list than Joel Embiid.
Yes.
Steph Curry can't make the fucking playoffs because of the team around him. Right. They have been a play-in team for years now. Kevin Durant traded a king's ransom to get him to Phoenix to pair with Devin Booker, got Bradley Beal, bounced in the first round of the playoffs, and by the way, has been humiliated in a couple of playoff series in recent years by the Boston Celtics, just as a reminder. And the Timberwolves sent them home unceremoniously. You're going to give it to Anthony Davis?
No.
Another guy lost in the first round. Devin Booker lost in the first round. LeBron James lost in the first round. So you just go down the list. You can, there's only a certain amount of stock you can put in the playoffs. If the line is we judge it mostly on the playoffs, that's okay. I get it. That's ultimately everybody is weighed by the rings and playoff performance, and that weighs much heavier in most people's minds than the regular season. I get it. But if that's the case, you're going to have to give me a top 10 of guys who are actually good enough regular season performers over an extended period of time and good enough playoff performers over an extended period of time. Because recent history shows us there aren't that many of them. It changes year to year to year. It's that simple to me. So for me, it's easy. He's easy top 10, and I think he's fairly easy top 5.
Yeah. The top 10 thing, we're not even. I don't even want to discuss that.
Well, Vince is trying to come in here and talking sideways.
I would like it if he came in here and talked sideways, but unfortunately, he's got to be behind the keyboard.
He would lend his voice. He just doesn't want to be. He'll lend his voice. He'll peek his head in the door and say what he needs to say, and then go back in and handle his business in the office and do what he does. But no,
one day during PHLY's existence, we are getting Vince on this show to debate Joel Embiid. It's my mission in life.
Does he do it if he wins the championship?
Well, no, because then he'd have to say he was wrong.
But either way, we get him on the show.
I mean, I'll take it.
Look, I do want to say this while we're in this part of the conversation. Of course, Joel's got to be better in the playoffs.
Yeah,
right? None of us sit here and are like, okay, I'm making this argument for argument's sake, just like laying out the terms that I think of this stuff by. But that's not me sitting here saying Joel is the sacred cow. He's the perfect player. He's untouchable. He doesn't need to change his game. He doesn't need to do this. We've laid out on the show over the last month, this is how I want him to change. I want him to lose weight to protect his health and to be a different style of player. I want him to focus on scoring through the first 3 quarters and then cede the floor and the bulk of the scoring to Tyrese Maxey. I want to watch him adjust. The difference between me and some of the people who are like, well, trade this guy, or he's not top 5, he's not top 10, whatever it is. I think Joel has shown through the work he's put in, what he's said about Tyrese Maxey, how his partnership has grown with him, that he is willing to listen and evolve and learn and not just be the same guy beating his head against the wall for his entire career. So I think based on, even something as simple as, I think if you listen to what he said in pressers during that Knicks series and after the Knicks series, that he took a very sober view of look, it starts with me. And people have gotten on him in the past for excuse making or blaming other people. And some of that was kind of stupid with like the Ben stuff, where I thought that just got misinterpreted as part of a longer point that he was making. But I do think that the maturity he's shown to get to this place will show up in a way that his game will evolve, and he will eventually, hopefully, mercifully for our sake, so I don't have to keep having these arguments in the playoffs, and then all of us can just enjoy the game and stop yelling at one another about it, because that's really all it comes down to.
All right, I have another question when we get back, but first, got to tell everybody about our good friends from TrueMark Financial Credit Union. When you join a credit union like TrueMark Financial, you do become part owner, which means profit does come back to you as well instead of going to the shareholders. That's very important. As we know, better rates, lower fees, a better return on savings, and even more flexible options for you with all the same digital tools and tech to make our lives easier. TrueMark, they have local roots right here in the area, headquartered in Fort Washington with 24 branches in the Philly area. I always speak about the one in Upper Darby because that's the one I see the most. They serve our community and our people right here at home. So as you're getting ready for the summer, maybe looking to do some things in the fall, looking for a home, maybe deeper into the year, into the winter, that's something you're looking to do, make sure you get involved with TrueMark Financial. Becoming a member of a credit union has so many benefits over being a customer at a bank. It's a total no-brainer. Head over to TrueMark.com/PHLY to learn more or to find a branch near you. That's TrueMark.com/PHLY, federally insured by the NCUA. And also, Bet Parks Casino, a place I've been telling you about now for quite some time here. And we have some big-time shows coming up August 23rd this year. Oh, that will be Southern Rock of the Marshall Tucker Band that Kyle was telling you about, some of the songs that they have there. Australian Pink Floyd.
Take the highway, baby.
September 7th, also at Bet Parks Casino. Plus, from the TV show Jersey Shore, the It's Happening podcast on June 28th, live with Snooki and Joey. They're coming to Parks Casino on June 28th.
Not Snooki.
All at Parks Casino, the #1 casino experience in the state of Pennsylvania. Parks Casino, this is how you win. They have it all. It's my casino of choice. They have a 3,200 state-of-the-art slots. They have 115 live table games, a beautiful poker room, and a fantastic, fantastic sports lounge with a 150-foot video wall. Visit parkscasino.com. That's Parks Casino. This is how you win. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, on the Embiid front, and we'll get to our super chat here in just a second. I wanted to, a lot of times when we get these conversations about these top players like Embiid is, one of the arguments and one of the pushbacks, Derek, is always this when it comes to Embiid. Who wants to play and team up with Joel Embiid? Why haven't we seen anybody come to Philadelphia and team up with Joel Embiid? Yes, the Jimmy Butler piece happened, but he left.
Well, but not because of Joel Embiid.
Fair. I'm just laying it out. Yeah. He left. James Harden, same thing. He left. Not because of Joel Embiid. He called the general manager and the president of basketball operations a liar. He did leave. Ben Simmons, also an all-star, a face of the franchise. He was here with them and he left. So a lot of times, though, we do get that question, teaming up with Joel Embiid. Now, we'll see what happens this summer because there's going to have to be a decision made. The money is going to have to play a big factor in Paul George and anybody else that's a free agent. But coming here to Philadelphia, we did get that argument a lot. Do you feel like that's still the case? And is Tyrese Maxey taking a little bit of that away because he is the #2 now?
Look, I think if you want to, why hasn't Joel Embiid recruited anyone? I think it's in large part because they haven't had trade resources or salary cap space to do the recruiting with. Like, it's one thing to be like, I want to play with Joel Embiid. It's another thing to be like, well, they can actually pay me, so let's go play with Joel Embiid.
Also, Jimmy Butler would have played with Joel Embiid.
Yeah, and James Harden
before
he
was even this Joel Embiid.
Yes.
So
the last time they really had a chance to go out and pursue high-level players was back in 2018, and they were lining up to do that. They had a meeting with LeBron James. Unfortunately, the Sixers general manager got sacked because he was too busy yelling about getting a tall ladder to punch Joel Embiid.
Sacked? What are you? You're an English Premier League analyst now.
Sure,
you're like bringing in the European terms.
Is that really a European term?
Sack. They use that instead of fired most of the time for their managers. Yeah.
I went with the hangover sack lunch, but go ahead.
Learn something new. All right. Anyway, they had that whole Burnergate controversy, which was very recently the anniversary of it. We probably should have done a show on it, or at least mention it, because that was a wild time in our past.
Still time.
Plenty of time. We have content
June
space.
is a long ass month. All right.
Content space, man.
But they haven't had an opportunity to do that ever since then. They've been tied up to the Ben Simmons contract, to the Tobias Harris contract. They haven't really had first round draft picks to trade, and when they did trade them, they would use them to acquire players like Pasechniks. They haven't. My point is, they haven't really had a chance to go out and go star hunting in a while. So I don't think it's necessarily like players don't want to team up with Joel Embiid. There's just got to be a way to acquire them, and they've been short on that. But, I mean, look, early on in Joel Embiid's career, when they had cap space like 3 straight years in a row, they had max cap space. It wasn't really, I don't think, realistic to be like, hey, Joe, we know you're like a second-year player, but why can't you get LeBron James to want to come here?
Who also missed the first 2 years of his career with foot injuries.
But I think a lot of the narrative maybe stems from that and the fact that they had that cap space, weren't able to really make the most of it. But I don't think that was necessarily Joel Embiid's fault. It was just really early on in his days as a star player in this league. Now, we'll see whether or not he has any kind of pull in that regard.
Yeah. Like, look, is he the most attractive star to play with? No. That we can be honest about that, right?
In large part because nobody in the NBA has experience playing next to his archetype.
Yes, he is. And unlike Jokic, and look, it's not like the Nuggets have been a free agent hotbed in Denver, right? Their most important moves have been draft and trade.
Yeah.
It's not like playing with Jokic has been this big thing. And there are a lot of people who believe he's been the undisputed best player for years now. These guys are not used to playing with big men, not big men who are having the offense run through them. Like, that's just not how the league works. It's not how these guys are playing in college, in high school, and AAU, and every other level. And so for some of these guys, it's like, so what does my game look like next to a player like this? And then you add on the health factor. Like, these guys are smart enough to know, like, okay, I think Joel is really good. I think most of these guys will be like, yeah, he's one of the top 5 players in the league. But if he's not going to be there for me to play with us at the finish line, how much do I really want to play with him? And look, let's be honest too. Philadelphia has had a hard time as an NBA market drawing stars to play here unless they trade for them or draft them. It is not LA. It is not Miami. Like, even the Clippers have an easier time just because it's in a place where NBA players, at least modern NBA players, want to be. And so that's the reality of it.
To be unbelievable because it is
I think
top
it's crazy,
city in the country.
Especially,
really
and like, look, to the credit.
They always throw Chicago in front. Look, Chicago's in the mix too, but they always throw Chicago in.
I've said this before. To me, the Bulls are the most embarrassing organization in the league, not because they've been run necessarily the worst, but because for an entire generation of basketball fans, you associated the Chicago Bulls with greatness. Like, they were the American sports team for an entire decade. They defined the 90s. They were so big that, when obviously COVID impacted this, but the whole world is watching The Last Dance when that comes out because of the importance of Jordan and that team. And they have pieces in there of them doing like a preseason thing in France. And Michael Jordan's getting off the plane and just getting like he's like a pop star over there. And now they're just this obscure, like, oh, they're okay. They're kind of like an 8th seed every single year. And that's all they really care about. Like, they're a huge embarrassment. But to your point about Philadelphia, the other organizations, even not so much lately with the Flyers, but historically, the Flyers have been a big free agency team. The Phillies obviously have been huge with free agents in recent years. And the Eagles, thanks to being the most consistently successful team for basically 2.5 decades at this point, people always want to play for them. And so
it is tough to compare.
For Joel, some of it is like you are building the franchise reputation so that there are more people like Kelly Oubre in the future who are like, oh yeah, this is a place where you win, because that's not been who the Sixers are. There have been pockets of it in history, but they generally have been, unfortunately, the little brother team compared to the Boston Celtics or teams like the Lakers. That's just kind of how it goes.
It is tough to compare like other Philadelphia teams to the Sixers, though. Like baseball, there's no salary cap. Right. You can just go out there and outbid, and as long as you're willing to do that, that will overcome your location. This Philadelphia is not an attraction. I don't think it's really a detriment.
No.
Like I don't think Philadelphia has a reputation where stars don't want to come here, but it's not LA. It's not
It's not an active
it's not Florida.
draw.
It's not New York. It's
Or even Texas with the, the state taxes and the whole,
it's just
all that.
it's everywhere else. You've got to have a contender, you've got to have the money, and you've got to have a star that other teams want to play with. Very rarely has all of that aligned. This is a summer where it can.
Well, they have been a contender. That's the one thing. I guess they just haven't had the space, to your point, to bring the players in. Super chat with Gavin. Do you guys really believe Joel can fall out of the top 4? There's always a chance he can fall out of the top 4, just from other guys elevating their level of play and their team success and bumping him out. And especially if you're talking about the playoff success or lack thereof, there's always an opportunity for that to be the case.
And so just to circle back to the guys we're talking about, Joel was playing better than he ever had this season, but he played half the year.
Mm-hmm.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played elite level basketball on the number 1 seed in the West and was available for most of the season. So there is a gap, and that's where, like, I had this argument about when we were talking about rookie of the year way back when, or Joel potentially making all-star teams. That's when I was more on the side of, he's clearly one of the best and most productive players in the league. But once you get into the things like, we're talking about rankings here, but then like all NBA, MVP type stuff, like, yes, the amount of games is the threshold of games the league set was problematic this year, and a lot of people complained about. But I do get it, right? Like it's been part of the MVP voting for forever. So yeah, he could fall out of the top 4. I don't think it'll be for production reasons. I think the production is basically set in stone for him, at least in the regular season.
No question. Absolutely. I agree. All right. I want to throw another piece in there as we talk about the big man, the center position in general. There was a report yesterday that dropped about a longtime Golden State Warrior big man, Kevon Looney, potentially being a guy that's bought out at the end of the year because of, not bought out, pardon me. He might be released at the end of the year based on contractual stuff and the fact what they want to do and moving on with that position. And we've talked a lot about the backup big man position behind Joel Embiid and seeing if you can find some minutes elsewhere. Andre Drummond, we've talked about. Jonas Valanciunas, we dedicated some time on him as well, and a few others. And right now, Kevon Looney is a name, of course, that everybody will start talking about because there's not a lot of news outside of the NBA Finals going on at the moment. But looking at that name, Derek, when you look at the type of center that Kevon Looney is, would you be interested at all if Kevon Looney were acquired by the 76ers somehow, some way, if he's waived and they gave him a contract? And what kind of money would that look like as far as we go with the salary cap?
Well, I'd have to double check his contract. I think he's got guaranteed money for this year, doesn't he?
So he was at about $8 million,
yeah.
But only 3, I think.
Oh,
of
only
it
3
was
is guaranteed? Okay. That might, yeah, I'd have to, I don't remember that, but I'm certainly not saying you're wrong.
Sure. And of course, there could be other opportunities where he might have a starting out.
Well, and that's why when you brought
point.
it up, I'm thinking like for a trade candidate, and $8 million to me is still just a little bit too much to commit to a backup center. Otherwise, I mean, I like Looney better than I like Paul Reed, but even so, the principle is the same. Where I just don't want to, when you have limited salary slots, I don't want to waste that on a backup center. But yeah, if he's gets bought out or waived, he's an option. I just have a feeling he's going to cost too much.
I think he's fucking cooked. I think Looney. Even
on like a minimum contract,
I'm not even sure I would touch him with a minimum. I think he is so limited mobility wise at this point that you're just asking teams to bring him out in space and say, try to defend us.
His knees have been done for years. He's just been able to fight through it and play through it.
He is a competitor.
Yes.
He is a guy that, has been through a ton of long, deep playoff runs.
He got to the league,
a lot of experience,
with bad knees.
And all credit to him for somehow,
his career,
in spite of those health issues, carving out this lane for himself. I just think he is like stuck in cement at this point, and so I would. That's one where I take a flyer on a young guy who probably has a much lower floor if it doesn't work out than hope for like the rejuvenation season for Looney. And I feel like, again, I'm not trying to throw dirt on him or anything. I hope that he's able to bounce back. Career. And he seems like if you were talking about like the locker room component as well, the crazy thing is, do you know how old he is?
He left UCLA as a sophomore or freshman.
He feels like he's like
young.
1,000 years old
He's
to me.
28, 29?
He's like 27.
Yeah.
Bless you. He turned 28 in February.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Because
in
he
my
left
head,
school. I think he left as
in
a
my
freshman.
head, he feels like he's like 45 years old.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just because
We
I
saw
watched
Golden
him play
State
last
every
season.
night. We saw
Yeah.
Golden State every night during their championship years, and he was there.
I guess like looking at that and saying, he's 28. Maybe I might take the flyer on him. I'm not paying more than the minimum though. If any team bids more than that, I say thank you very much and say good luck, best of luck in your career and your future travels.
Look, he did okay when they put him on the bench. He did okay in that reserve role. Less minutes. To your point, he's not playing 30 or 25, 30 minutes anymore. He's playing less minutes. And for that, he's a smart guy. He can rebound. When we've seen all these rebounding issues with this basketball team, especially with that second unit, he knows how to rebound. He knows that positioning. And, of course, if he does the intangibles and the boxing out that you can get in there and scoop up those rebounds, he's not a bad guy to look at if it is that minimum and not anything significant when it comes to that money.
Yeah, you certainly like significant contracts, no. And that's just as a matter of principle on backup, certainly one with question marks. But look, I think my bar for a minimum contract is probably lower than some. Sixers are going to have probably 5 or 6 or 7 minimum contracts on there if he's one of them.
Right.
Just to try him out. Not completely against it, but they do have to not getting too nerdy on it. But like if they go out there and Max Paul George, they use their $15 or so million in cap space. They use their room mid-level, and then they fill out the rest of the roster with minimum salaries. They will be approaching the first apron threshold. And again, I'm going to try not to get too nerdy on this, but once you pass that, you get certain restrictions. And if you cycle through too many minimum salaries, you can exceed the first apron threshold. So you do have to be a little bit targeted and strategic on the minimum contracts you do give out. So you'd have to have at least some level of confidence that his knees have something left. But when you start talking about minimum salary big men, you're probably going to be talking about either old or flawed or injured or all three of the above.
And to be fair to Looney as well, some of what has shown up as his limitations in the last year or two could very well be a product of, Clay has taken the step back that we've acknowledged on this show, that he can't keep guys in front of him. So there's more stuff getting to Looney. Draymond being in and out of the lineup and throwing things into chaos, introducing more young guys. They never really found a consistent rotation that worked this year. And so we always say it with backup center here, like that a lot of the problems that get put on, this is Greg Monroe's fault or Boban's fault or Dwight Howard's fault or whoever, is more a reflection of the stars and the things that are going on around them. So you could certainly sell me on the idea of like, he's still good enough, certainly has the intangibles, has had the skills you would want in a backup center in the past, just hasn't shown them as much recently. So I'm not, maybe I was a little harsh, but I do think that
that
last
up my
season,
next question,
watching them a lot was...
You messed up my next question, specifically to you. Kevon Looney or Mo Bamba on the minimum?
Oh, I would still take Kevon Looney, even with no knees. Just because I would take a guy who at least seems like he wants to play most of the time, which is Kevon Looney and not no Bamba.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's why when we start talking about the recent history of Sixers big men, like Trez didn't have a whole lot left physically, but he also was a terrible defender even when he was healthy. Yeah. So at least Kevon has the mindset and the
want to is there.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, final one. I had this one from last week that I wanted to ask you guys about. It was just a funny story. Remember Chase Budinger?
Sure.
Arizona?
Yeah.
Gets to the league as a first-round pick. Nice wing player. He's now going to the Olympics, participating Team USA is
beach volleyball. I did see that.
Yes.
I didn't see Olympics, but I've seen him doing volleyball for a little while.
Well, he's going to the Olympics as a member of Team USA for beach volleyball.
Still only 36. I
is he
was
36?
Older. Yeah.
Really?
Because his draft was like 15 years ago. So
damn. That doesn't seem like Yeah, 36.
Well, because he's been
When
out
I
of the
saw him
league for a
pop
while
up,
now.
somebody was like, "Man, the bar must be low for a beach volleyball Olympics."
Well, I think they
guy.
set the bar pretty. It's consistent, right? The net's got to be. Just got to clear the net.
But over there, Jesus, the dad jokes.
Yeah, going to the Olympics, man. Different
Good for him.
sport. Yeah, and it's like what's my man's name? Bloom for the Eagles, who was also what was he?
Jeremy Bloom.
Jeremy Bloom from Colorado. Yeah,
He's a skier. Skier and a punt returner.
Yes, he was.
That's what a weird.
Wide
That's one of the
receiver,
weirdest
punt
job
returner.
combinations I can think of. I ski and I get hit for a living, essentially. All right, I got one for you.
Guess when he falls, it doesn't hurt.
You never answered the question.
Yeah.
King of New York or New Jack City?
New Jack City for me.
Yeah.
That one, growing up, that one was huge for me with Wesley Snipes, Alan Payne, for what they did. Of course, having Chris Rock in there at the time. New Jack City.
Am I my brother's keeper?
Just so many with that one. And then to add on to it later years, just to keep it going, when Martin on the television show had his CD player stolen and it was missing, pardon me, and he thought his group, his team of 4, of course, were the culprits of his missing CD. He reenacted the scene with the Rottweiler sitting at the table in all black, and he had a fake dog. And I have to show you guys, if you haven't seen it, I'll show you. It's legendary. And what Martin did,
we'll pull it up one day.
He had a fake dog, and as he was walking around, he would start dragging the stuffed animal dog around as the real dog, like he was Wesley Snipes in New Jack City. So, but New Jack City for me is mine. Yours?
Listen, I think King of New York is underrated, but I definitely think that you know what else is
Pookie.
I think underrated relative to this subgenre of movies from like 90 to 94 ish.
Mm-hmm.
Menace to Society. Lawrence Tate is fucking incredible in that movie.
So during my hiatus,
yeah,
I watched it one day. I was like, you know what? I haven't seen this in a long time. I'm going to watch it. And to see Lawrence Tate do that and then see him do a totally different role in another movie, he was great.
Yeah.
He was great in that movie. So, yeah. And Marshall Lynch says King of New York clears.
Wow.
Not for me. But I'm not going to argue the point because I think both were really good.
Rick Morris shouting out Juice.
Juice was on the other night too. Yeah, saw that.
Shout out to Tupac. Yeah. Rest in peace to Tupac.
Yeah, he was great in that one as well. Omar Epps.
I think, frankly, what is your favorite out of, if you throw I'm trying to think of the Menace to Society, New Jack City, Juice, King of New York, Boys in the Hood.
Yeah, Paid in Full I seen in there.
Paid in Full. What's the best one?
Boys in the Hood to me. That was more for me right there, Boys in the Hood. Of course, I don't have anything related to South Central LA and being out there and dealing with that. The only thing was my dad lived in LA at that time, so I would be out there in the early 90s. I was a teenager in the early 90s, so I was out there. And he would say, I'm not taking you here because of the gangs. Don't bring your Phillies hat because you can't wear the red while you're out here, that type of stuff, which I always found weird because when you go to Dodger games, the gangs are there and you can wear the blue Dodger hat. It was okay. I understand it was a team, but if we're going for what they, their rules were really, it was really weird. It was really different. But for me, Boys in the Hood was the one for me at that time because I did grow up in the inner city, growing up in Winfield and West Philly, and just hearing what they were dealing with in that film for what I would see around the way was like, yeah, this one for me always stuck. Boys in the Hood.
Mosley TV also brought up Don't Be a Menace, which
South
we
Central,
brought up the Wayans brothers recently.
While drinking, you do CB4 with Chris Rock.
My milk of magnesia.
That was my dad. One of his favorite movies to just sit there and laugh over and over again. Marshall Lynch said, Ricky! That's right. Go get Rick.
To your point, and like Boys in the Hood.
Yeah, so I related that to where I grew
Boys
up.
in the Hood also is more of a traditional coming of age movie too.
Yeah,
I guess Juice is a little bit.
Juice too. Yeah.
New Jack City is in so New Jack City and King of New York are in the mafioso drug kingpin type of. They're more like Scarface than like Boys in the Hood. So maybe that was unfair to compare this. But yeah, Boys in the Hood's a classic. So can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, Eugene with the message. Is that is it Keenan Wayans?
That was Keenan.
Yeah.
Yes.
He just pops in at random times.
Yeah.
Message.
Yeah. And Money Mar also brings Fear of a Black Cat. That's also one of my dad's favorite to sit there and just laugh at with when you're talking about CB4 too. So some really good ones. OG Bobby Johnson. Some really good movies from back in the day with that one. Yeah. Some really good ones. Yeah. That's good.
Winona asked if any of us have seen the new Bad Boys yet. Devon has seen it twice. I saw a screening last Monday, and then I saw it on Saturday with the family. We all got together, and we went to the movie theater and saw it as a group. It was like 12 of us in there seeing it. So I saw it twice. It was they did it again, folks. If you haven't seen the Bad Boys, and of course, I'm not gonna say anything except for they've done it again. They've done it again. Four movies, one last ride for the fellas.
4 movies and you don't get it wrong yet. That's really difficult to do. And they got it right, I thought.
I got some Will Smith thoughts, but I'm not trying to get in trouble today.
We can have that conversation. Because when it happened, guess what I had to do? I had to do a show the next night. And as Martian says, Devon, let that Will Smith slide. Martian, here's why, and then we can move on, get the roll call. I've seen many people get slapped. It didn't bother me.
I'll just say this. The
Will's from around my way.
overreaction to a man slapping another man was, once you get into the like, what am I going to tell my kids? Like, I don't know, man, that he was insulting his wife and the guy got mad and he fucking defended her.
That night, man, when I had to do that, he was assaulted. He better not. He better not.
You just reminded me. You remember on Inside when they were talking about the tunnel in L.A.?
Yes.
Shaq, he said police presence.
Yeah. He said that was the first time in all my years of NBA I have never heard the word police presence.
Police presence.
So again,
I put that in the same category.
I've seen many people get slapped. I was not moved. So there's that.
We're getting out of here before we get ourselves in trouble today.
Let's get a roll call. What up, Will Smith?
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you, Eugene Ross, Lost Sleep TV, Jeffrey Stewart, Neil Deaver, Spo Babby, Demetrius Stinson, Elliot Vincent, my girl Winona, because I feel like a pod. Money Mar, who said, got to give love to the hometown flick, state property. That's right, Money.
There you go.
You are absolutely right. Yeah. Rick Morse, my guy Will.
What up, Rick?
Bootzilla.
Boots.
Martian Lynch. Dave. Rich P.
Dave Doer.
Derek Bodner.
What
Dave
up, Rich?
Doer. I always want to say his name wrong, so I just say Dave.
All right. What up, Dave?
What's up, Dave? Who else we got in here today? Prophet One, Justin Cobb,
Elliot said,
Barbara Carroll.
Nah, guys, that was assault. Assault.
Now I'm thinking of the line in one of the Adam Sandler movies. Maybe it's Billy Madison. That's assault, brother.
Winona
so
says,
that's just like in my head.
My family was stunned. I was shocked that he did it.
It was definitely shocking.
I've seen it before, so
Al Mack,
whatever.
Brian Knight. Who else we in
what
there?
What up, Brian?
Michael B.
What up, Michael B?
The Prince of Portugal. Prince of the Portuguese freezer.
We'll be out there, Mike. Yes, right.
After the Kawhi.
Send me some linguiça, Mike. I need it.
Slade.
That's the Portuguese sauce.
My guy. All right, guys. We got to get out of here before Devon and I get thrown out of the company for talking about Will Smith slapping people. If you could please hit the subscribe button.
Stephen A tried to cancel him, folks.
Hit the bell icon so you get notifications
Stephen A's not
every time we go live.
No, he's not.
If you hit the thumbs up button, I promise that I won't walk onto the set and slap Devon on the show tomorrow or ever.
We cannot promise
nice
that Devon won't slap you, though.
I can't promise that. I can only control my own actions.
I do give Chris Rock credit for not pressing charges. Thank you. You don't do that.
That's like giving Drake credit for not suing Kendrick for defamation in a rap
Some
battle.
people look at that as
Whatever.
assault.
Anyway, thank you, super producer Bree. Back in the producer's chair today. We'll be back with you again tomorrow at 2:30. Goodbye.
See y'all.
We all silly like the mayor.